Hey guys, VaulSC here. Hope that you're having a good week. Today I'm going to talk about a game of Infinity that I had against my buddy last Tuesday night. I was playing OSS, he was playing NCA, and we were playing on the mission Neural Net, which is one of my recent custom missions, and incidentally, that is going to be the mission used in the TTS League that we're currently running for next week's round, which I believe is round 4. So you guys might be interested in actually following along with this bat rep just for fun, or of course to inform yourself a little bit more about how the mission might work for your upcoming game in the league. For those of you who don't know, there is a Google Drive folder that you can go to. I'll leave the link in the video description where you can come up here and have a read of the custom mission. Here it is right here, so if you want to give it a go, here are the rules. Just, I guess, to give you guys a really brief rundown. Let me just get the earliest photo here. Here it would be. So this is a mission which has 9 objectives in a grid fashion, very similar to the old comm center for those of you who are veterans of the game and have played previous edition missions. So there's a grid of 9 objectives, and the idea is simple. If you have captured more of them, and capturing means, you know, hitting the button, passing a willpower check with a specialist, at the end of the game, you get 1 point, and then of course you get 1 point for each one that you capture. So if you're the player on this side here and you get those 3, and then your opponent is on the other side and they get this one, this one, this one, and this one, well, your opponent has got 4 to your 3, so you get 3 objective points. Your opponent gets 4 plus 1 having more than you, so that is 5. So really simple mission, but there are a couple of little added complications. One of them is that in the first game round, all of your specialists are -3 willpower to hit the buttons. Sorry, +3 willpower at the start of the first game round. Then in the second game round, there's no modifier, and in the third game round, it's -3. Now, the thing with Infinity over the years, for you players who have played a lot, you guys know that missions that involve capturing objectives like this, typically the best strategy is to just rough your opponent up and soften them up first in the early game, and then grab the objectives later, because you'll have an easier time doing it if you've actually won on material. Secondarily, if your opponent's wasted their time and effort and resources and orders taking objectives, and you just then capture it back, you're swinging it more so than if you had just grabbed an objective that hadn't previously been captured. If you're moving the capture status of the objective from their side to yours, that is a much larger swing. But what this mission does is it makes it easier to do that at the start of the game and harder to do it at the end of the game, which kind of turns that idea on its head. It still is very powerful to wait till the end of the game to take objectives off your opponent, but now you have to think about it a bit more, and it kind of just shakes up your usual Infinity intuition, which I think a lot of you will enjoy the challenge of. The other thing too is that you're allowed to specify one objective to be locked down. So let's say you pick this one secretly. That means that when your opponent goes up to it, after they've passed a willpower check, so they don't get to find this out if they keep failing the check, but if they've passed a willpower check, then you have to tell them, look, that one's been locked down, you cannot capture it. Meaning that they may run into that early, they may run into that late, but the thinking is, until they know which objective that is, they're going to have to be thinking a bit carefully about, you know, do I risk going and spending the orders to go and grab it? The only way to grab that objective is to get all of the other 8 objectives, which is very hard to do, and then the final one is unlocked for you. So the cool thing about this, which I really like, is that if everybody sort of solves the puzzle here and figures out which objective to go for, like if the community collectively decided that the middle one is always the best one to go for, once that solution is out there, you could always start playing around it. So you just don't bother to waste your resources grabbing that one, and you choose a different objective for your opponent to have locked down, and they run into it, and you don't run into the one that they lock down, meaning that you actually get a little bit of an advantage. So purely, outthinking and out-leveling your opponent in terms of the mind game is really beneficial, which is another thing that makes this mission really cool. So if you'd like to know more, please do head to the video description and have a look at the custom mission. And without further ado, I'm going to go and talk about some army lists. Alright, so this is an army list I've played before. I was kind of a little bit short on time before my game this week, and I decided not to spend a lot of time studying and making a whole new list. I did want to use Parvati because I painted the model not too long ago and I quite like it. But yeah, so the idea behind this list is that OSS is the strongest faction in the game when it comes to winning long-range face-to-face rolls. Because, and face-to-face rolls is the wrong way to put it, they're the best faction in the game for winning the long-range attrition shootouts. And what I mean by that is that first you've got to win the face-to-face roll, but if you don't happen to win it and you need a model to be revived and try again, the Dakini Link team really is the way to go, because you have either the HMG or the sniper rifle, you put the Evo repeater on it, and you can buff it with the REM driver, and if it does go unconscious, they drop behind the wall, Parvati revives them. So if your opponent's put up a roadblock, like a guy in a Link team or a tag or whatever it might be, the Dakinis will wear it down better than anything else in the game really could in that kind of scenario. The other list that I run quite a lot is the Marut, and I think that list is better, but again, I just wanted to play Parvati for the sake of it today. Also, this list has the Dazu and the Naga as specialists to grab those objectives, and of course Parvati in the team, she's quite good at it when she moves out with the group of them. So yeah, one thing I'd change about this list is I think I really should have a hacker in there for a mission like this, because it encourages you to go into the midfield. Your opponent's going to be spending so much time in the center that you're kind of missing out on opportunities to hack them if you don't have like a regular hacker. I've got the killer hacker, but not the regular one, so I think a change to this list would actually be to swap my proxy sniper here, Mark II, to the other version, and run some other gun for AROs, but lately I've been trying out this proxy in this particular list, and as we'll see in this game, it does quite well, but overall I think for a mission like this and for a map like this, the hacker would have served me a lot better. Hypothetically speaking. In the actual game, again, dice rolls go my way, and this sniper does very well. We'll see that shortly. So my opponent, he is playing NCA. I'm going to be doing a faction review video of NCA coming up pretty soon. By the way, guys, this one will be a bit different because I'll be inviting members of the community to submit videos of themselves talking about units for a change. So the NCA review video will be a collaboration with me and a bunch of people. So send me a DM on Discord if you're keen to be involved. More of that later. My opponent is trying out NCA for the first time. He is running the option to mix and match his Link team a little bit. So he's got the Varuna Orc Feuerback. I think that's a good profile. Blackfriar, I'm a little bit reluctant to take him in my lists just because of the cost of him. I feel like you can just, have bolts to throw on the drop bears, and the although the MSV is good, I particularly like the Aquila Guard, but look, he's still a strong piece. This game, my opponent took a Fusilier HMG and forgot to deploy it on the table, so he got through the entire game without using it. Having said that, he did inform me that that model wouldn't have started out in the Link team, and in this particular game, the Link team did move out, and he wouldn't have been able to join it, and he was counting the order generated by this guy for the whole game, so he was basically a cheerleader that I couldn't attack. Still, it would have been better for him if he'd put him on the table. Quinn with the Shock Marksman rifle, again, I feel like he's a little bit expensive, but my opponent has strong feelings about him, so good on him for that. A couple of CSUs, as you do. I love the fact this list has two Bulletiers. The Bulletier is a very good unit on its own, and it's obviously becomes much better in a Link team, and he's got one for the core, one for the Harris. So if you come down here, he's put his Bolt Sniper in the Bulletier Harris with the Machinist. That is a very good Harris. I think it's very commendable. My own style is different. I like to take the Bolt in the big core Link team because he's really handling the heavy lifting of the shooting a lot of the time. But this does give you a better spread of firepower on different sides of the table, so that is pretty good. Garud Attack Bot is a bit hit and miss. I don't particularly like relying on him. I'd rather take something else that I know is just going to steamroll up the front of the table, but it is a very powerful piece when it works. And of course, Fusilier Forward Observers coming in here to help defend deployment zones, but also to grab those juicy objectives, which we're going to be doing a lot of in this mission. So yeah, links in the video description for all of that. I've been through the mission. Let's go to the game. So this is a game where I believe I won the dice roll for initiative, and I decided to take the table side that I liked. My opponent went for first turn, so let's have a look at this. Is the table photo layout that we just talked about. Here is the deployment zone from the side that I'm setting up on. Here's the deployment zone from the side that my opponent's setting up on. And here's a first look. So on his right-hand side, we've got the Orc spot. In the back row, we've got the Lieutenant just prone behind this box. And in the background there, you can see his link team setting up in the middle of the table. There's a closer look at them. So using a couple of Huckslum models to proxy as CSUs, this unpainted white primed model is Richard Quinn, Feuerbach on the left, and Blackfriar on the right, and then there's a Palbot nearby which belongs to his Trauma Doctor. Closer look there of our Blackfriar and the Feuerbach. I've been meaning to get this guy into TTS, but he hasn't fully painted this guy up. That'd be quite a cool one, but I can't remember if we already have a Blackfriar in TTS. I don't think we do yet, but maybe we will soon. Okay, so that's the team. On his left flank, he has this Bolt Sniper watching some very long fire lanes, Engineer nearby to him, and the Bulleteer. Again, the thing that makes me uncomfortable about this is that, you know, if you don't prop the Bolt Sniper up, you know, you're just making it easier for him to lose those crucial shootouts. You want to give him the best chance of winning the shootouts if he's the one that you're banking on doing most of the shooting. So that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And secondarily, he has got his Doctor further to the left of this photo and the Palbot near to the core team. So the Bolt doesn't have the Doctor nearby to revive him, so hopefully he doesn't get unlucky. What I do like, though, is that the Machinist hangs around the Bulleteer within the link team, which is really good. Extreme left-hand flank, there's the other set of Auxilia and the Trauma Doc to the extreme left. My side, this is from right to left, my Apsara, who for this game is putting his her buff onto the Rim Driver buff onto the Dakini multi-sniper. Got a net rod and an Evo repeater featured here. Okay, so middle of the deployment zone, you can see the Evo we just looked at from the right. The link team here is Pavati, and the only person really standing up watching the table is the sniper. The really beautiful thing about this setup is that the sniper just starts out flat BS-13 from the Rim Driver, another 3 for the link team. He's got mimetism. He can see down those very long fire lanes that you can see there. And if he gets hit, even if he takes a couple wounds, he is just going to drop unconscious where Parvati can revive him with willpower, effectively 18 on her Doctor, on Engineer +3. So it's just a very strong link team actively and reactively, which is why I like playing OSS, especially when people make tables that are very open. I've designed this table out myself, and I've made it very dense, just to give myself more of a challenge for playing OSS. My CSU is rolled up Climbing Plus. I think one of his has got 8-4 speed, and the other one's got God knows what. I can't quite remember. Oh, by the way, that's my Naga out in the midfield, the Fort Observer. I will make the comment here that my Dazu for this game is hidden deployed right there. So it's planning on just moving up and going up this part of the battlefield for objectives. Okay, a bit more of a shot of the link team showing the sniper in position with, of course, the flashbot nearby to act as that repeater network for the Evo repeater to add the assisted fire to somebody. Then the secondary flashbot further up because the link team may move out, and if they're camping around this area, they'll still have the repeater in range. Another net rod nearby, and the Shuka Lieutenant right at the bottom left corner of the table. Bit more of a glamour photo of Parvati and the bots, and then over to my opponent's side here. So he's beginning. So I think this is his reserve trooper, or he's placing his reserve trooper around about this point. I do remember I decided to spin a command token to take 2 orders away from Group 1. My reserve trooper, of course, is the posthuman, so you can see that the posthuman carries a really long fire lane down the right with his sniper rifle, and a very narrow but very long one through the middle to the left here along this sort of range. My opponent, so I'm also got the rocket launcher, which is covering another objective from the extreme left-hand side, just down through the middle. So the good thing about this is he's armor 5 plus cover. He can just drop back here with his guts to keep himself standing. So my opponent, starting with the main link team, just pushing straight through the middle. Again, a fairly dense table. Some fire lanes are very long but narrow, so he can avoid them for a bit. He's just pushing forward, moving the link team into a position. You can see a nice glamour photo of them here, where you got a CSU, Quinn, Blackfriar, Orc Feuerbach, and Bulleteer all rolling out, and one of the CSUs who's not part of the team is back home. Remember again that he does have a Fusilier HMG, which he could have added to the team, but decided not to, and ended up not deploying him on the table. That wasn't too impactful in this game, but still, it's a bit of a shame that model didn't appear. Okay, so the team just moving up here again, trying to avoid my rocket launcher, my sniper rifle, my other sniper rifle. Got some long-range arrows pimped out right now. So then he does come through here and he does grab the first objective towards the center of his deployment zone, which is good. Again, this is a mission where it really helps to grab them early because of the buff, and then if you can basically make it harder for your opponent to move out and try grabbing them at the end, that can really punish them with the -3. So again, he's just setting up here, and what's going on is that there's a very long fire lane here covered by my post-human sniper, and I haven't revealed myself yet, and he's just trying to bait me out. So that's what's going to be happening over the next few orders in terms of the tactics. So what we're seeing here is my opponent's just moving up with his Orc Feuerbach in the link leader, and he's moving into a position where he can see the sniper. And what happens at some point here is that he does try to go for a free discover, because I've opted to not respond. If I did respond, I'd be hitting him on a flat 13. And he'd be hitting me on something like an 11 on 3 dice. He starts at BS14, +3 for range, +3 for link, then -3, -6 for my mimetism, then minus another 3 for cover. So, 11's on 3 dice versus 1 dice on 13. If I do crack the shot off on him, he is likely to survive the double action round because of his armor and cover. And I'm not too likely to survive a Feuerbach hit. So I've decided to see if I could just bait him into trying to discover, because at long range, even though he's got the bonus for discovering with the link team, he's at long range for the discover. I'm in cover. I've got mimetism -6, and there's a good chance he'll whiff it, which he did. So there's the position you can see with a very long fire lane through there with the post-human. So on the other side of the table, he's moving around with his bolt sniper, crucially giving up this location here. So this bolt sniper will discover next turn, would have been able to cover the middle lane of the table with his sniper, and it decides to give that up. Instead, they're moving around through here. What he wants to do is he wants to set up shop on his left-hand objective and move his bolt into a position where the bolt can also have a go at discovering and killing my post-human sniper. Note that the Orc Feuerbach hasn't managed to do it, so with the bolt moving out to do it, that is another way of clearing that lane, and he can move past that fire lane that I'm holding down with the post-human. So here he comes. He's moving into position there. That little orange, that little golden arrow marker, of course, is his Harris link leader marker, and he moves into position to attempt to discover my post-human. And again, I decided just to hold tight there, because if I let him shoot at me, he is -3 for my mimetism, because he knocks the -6 down to -3 because of his MSV1, and he does ignore cover. So it's kind of like you add the range, then you take away the mimetism, you ignore cover, you're hitting on something like 13s on 3 dice, whereas I'm shooting back on 113. So the chances of him just putting me down there are really high. But the chance of him discovering me, not great, because he's at long range. We're not sure if marksmanship ignores cover or not. We asked that question, and somebody on Discord said probably not. But you guys can tell me if that's right or wrong. But the main problem is he's up against cover and the mimetism as well. Again, mimetism 6, he knocks it down to -3 with his visor, and the bolt's only willpower 12. So he did try for the discover and failed it. So now the sniper has actually avoided both attempts to discover him, which is going quite well. But my opponent, again, didn't have the best odds to discover him with either of these individuals. So now we have the Feuerbach moving out a little bit here. And what happens is that he tries to bait me into shooting him by moving out one of his models in the sacrifice. So he said to me, hey, look, the Blackfriar is just going to move across. Do you want to activate your post-human? It's tempting, because I could have, shot down his Blackfriar, he could have shot down my post-human, that would have made his link a bit smaller. But I still didn't want to risk it, because it's clear that that's what he wanted me to do, and if he wanted me to do it, clearly it's going to be to his advantage. And also, that post-human's being really annoying right now, and it does mean that the post-human, if it survives, can activate and attack anything that actually ends up standing there later. Plus, if he does move out Richard Quinn or like a specialist or something, I might have a better chance of killing that and doing more damage to him. So I decided at the end of the day just to hold that sniper there because there's nothing else really relevant that could discover him at that point. So now that he is in position and has crossed that fire lane that the post-human was basically holding down and capturing and threatening and guarding, the Bulleteer is able to move into position to attack the other proxy here, the post-human Mark IV, and just rip into him with his Spitfire. This is a fully linked Bulleteer, burst 5, +3 ballistic skill, up against a post-human that just dodges, but the post-human is armor 5 +3 from cover, and what happened here is that the post-human just tanked the few hits that he did take, allowing me to sort of just guts away, or even just stand there. So my opponent's just sitting here, he's got his Feuerbach in the middle, just covering that long lane towards near to where my sniper is. He's moved out of, just barely out of line of sight of the sniper, but still holding a big chunk of real estate. Blackfriar just pulling into the cover here into the corner, Bulleteer hanging out. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, I don't really like my opponent's position from his point of view, because if he ends the turn with everybody out here, he's making it a bit easier for me to try and just maneuver around and try and pick off the weakest link of this team and use whatever tool I can in my list to chisel this down. And once one or two models crumble here, the rest are going to fall in short order. So I thought if I'd been him there after those bits of bad luck taking out my post-humans, I think maybe retreating might have been a better shot for him. But it is still a pretty shooty link team and a hard one to move if you don't outshoot them, and finding the angles to them is going to be the hard part. In the meantime, the CSU that belongs to the link does press the button on the objective. I think at one point he left one of his models out of range. That might have been the case with the Bulleteer shooting the post-human. He might have had a model not within the link, but rest assured he does press the middle button and reforms the link later, so he has captured 2 objectives, which will matter because I'm going to have to spend some of my turn capturing objectives as well. Not all of my turn can really be just killing him in the middle of the table, otherwise I might run out of time later. So it's good that he's getting ahead on the board. Elsewhere, his little auxiliary troop goes up to snag this objective, but I reveal that this is the one that I've locked down according to the mission's rules. So this one can't be captured by him until he gets the other 8, which we know is unlikely to happen. So my line of thinking here is that initially I was going to go for the middle objective, but I thought this could quite easily, just with my ARO game, this could quite easily turn into a game where we only get a few objectives each. And I don't want to waste the opportunity of the lockdown by grabbing one of the middle objectives with it. In some scenarios, I think it is better to lock down one of the central line objectives because you want your opponent to be committing to it and failing a couple of rolls first before they finally realize that they've been wasting the time this entire time. So that can be more powerful than allowing your opponent to realize earlier on which one is locked down. But in this case, because I was concerned that we might only get to 2 or 3 objectives over the course of the game just due to all the shooting that's about to happen, I decided to pick the one that he'd be going for first. Blackfriar plants a drop bear nearby to their position. He does, expect an incoming assault from the OSS, and he is quite right, so having a drop bear there should be quite helpful. And here's a top-down view of where everyone's set up. So link leader on the Feuerbach, Quinn's just covering a couple of lanes here, Bulleteer in the center, just shutting down lanes that are appropriate for his range band of his gun. So they're pretty well entrenched, but again, OSS is also good at shooting, so we'll see how the next turn goes. Lieutenant is so obvious, he decides to put himself into suppression fire just in case of any rogue Garuda drops nearby, and then I think it's over to me. So after looking at this and thinking about it very hard, I thought, well, I could just focus on objectives only, but then if I haven't attacked his link team at all, he can spend a turn just pushing into my territory and just blasting me, because he won't have the -2 orders from the command token at the start of the game in that sort of situation. So I thought about it long and hard, and I thought, well, I really need to try and pick a way in here, and I decided that it was going to be the Bulleteer that I attempt to take down. The Bulleteer in the reactive turn obviously is just going to be a shooting powerhouse, but one way I can swing it back my way is to put his Bulletier up against a Dakini. I mean, I don't have any MSV in this list, but the Bulletier doesn't ignore the mimetism from the Dakinis, so that's a small bonus. If I put assisted fire onto one of them as well, that can help out. And obviously, if I've got cover in the full weight of the link team at the active turn, I might be able to outshoot him. Unfortunately, the approach, like the fire lanes to that Bulletier, just weren't really going to be good for the HMG or the sniper. So I decided to give this job to my Dakini with the combi rifle. So it's awkward, but we spent a couple of orders moving in, and the combi rifle is able to move into a position where it's shooting the Bulletier. Both are at good range. I have assisted fire, he doesn't. I've got Mimetism 3, he's got Mimetism 6. We both have a link team. My active turn, his reactive turn. So once you calculate all the maths, I think it's 11 for the Dakinis, so +3 link, +3 range, -6 Mimetism is basically it. So 4 dice on 11s. If I've got that right, I'm ignoring his cover. And my opponent's shooting back with 9s on 2 dice. So 11s on 4 dice, 9s on 2 dice. It is a reasonably favorable situation for me. The Bulletier doesn't have a lot of armor. He's only got 1 structure point before he goes unconscious. This is a moment in the game where I did have a bit of bad luck, though. Overall, as you guys will see later, I get more lucky than I get unlucky overall. But this one situation, I feel like I went in with a pretty good strategy and pretty good tactic. Parvati's right there to revive the Dakini if he goes down. My opponent doesn't have that luxury. So 4 dice on 11's active turn, 2 dice on 9's reactive turn, really does favor OSS here. The Bulletier, however, manages to tank like 3 armor saves in 1 volley, which is very, very lucky. And he does go guts behind that objective further up, which is an intelligent thing to do. So I'm maneuvering around, getting my guys in position, really counting on this to work, because then the sniper can come across and actually pick off Richard Quinn, and then I can come back around the Orc Trooper, who would be in a 3-man team at that point in time, and I can just really brutalize them. So this game, I want you guys to know, could have quite easily snowballed into an OSS win in short order, but it's probably a good thing that that didn't happen, because the game turned out to be quite close and exciting and fun from here on out. So here's the Bulletier, wisely pulling back behind the cover of the objective, which means I've got to think about another way in. And I must admit, I did spend quite a bit of time just sitting and thinking here about what to do. My opponent this game also spent a lot of time just sitting there thinking without playing. We weren't on the clock. We did finish just barely in time. The game did take, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, which is a long game. But this was a position where I really had to think, do I risk it? Do I just push all in? What happens if I get in there, I don't kill anything, and my link team's right in front of his? I'll just get crushed. But yeah, after some thinking and calculation, I decided to move in. This is going to force some dodge rolls from the Bulletier and the Blackfriar. But the point is, if I can just draw on this for a little bit, the point is to avoid a bit of a fire lane through there. It doesn't actually touch this guy, so don't worry about that. But we're sort of coming around on this angle. And I'm going to put my CSU here as the point man, or point woman. And she's going to try and get shotgun hits on the Bulletier and the Blackfriar. So this is an important moment in the game. The CSU is going to touch this specific location here and try and shotgun these 2 guys. If they dodge, I can slug them. If they shoot me, I can just trade and lay down the templates. And if they're both killed, I do lose my CSU. I form a 4-man link team, but it becomes that much easier to pull in there and pick off Richard Quinn, pick off that Feuerbach. And if I can take down everybody except the CSU and then just sit there, I'll be feeling really good about the game, because my opponent in his turn 2 would be pushing back at me with much less firepower, and would have to spend it, probably the entire turn, if not longer, trying to respond to Parvati. On my way in, pushing up to this situation, I've already grabbed an objective here with Parvati, so I'm taking back some objectives. I'm going to be grabbing some with my other specialists as well this turn in the other group. But the point here is really to trade really hard. So we move in, and there was a so here's the final position here where she moves in. She can see the Blackfriar there. The HMG's walked up the ladder, of course, but he's gone prone, so he's not visible at the current point in time. Sniper's sneaking around the back, because the sniper's going to be able to shoot Richard Quinn later from around here. That's Richard up there. But the main focus is CSU versus Bulleteer and Blackfriar. And I decided to take a photograph of this template going down, just because we had a short conversation about whether I, in fact, could touch both the Bulleteer and the Blackfriar. And I said to him, if we just take another objective elsewhere on the table and just place it on top of the template, I can demonstrate just visually here that there's a small piece of cardboard on either side sticking out, which proves that because your two models are touching the objective on either side, my template can be positioned in a way that it will actually affect them. And my opponent checked that out and agreed with it. So these guys are getting hit. He did opt to fire at me directly without dodging. So both enemy models take 3 armor saves each, which I am very thankful for, resulted in their demise. But of course the CSU got wiped off the face of the earth at the same time. I'll take it. A good trade. So here we are. CSU's gone and the Pano guys are on the floor. Parvati can now move in with the 2 or 3 orders she's got left and try and do something against the Feuerbach. Of course, I can use my sniper first of all to go after Richard Quinn. Note that my link leader's just died, so this sniper is going in on his own. Remember, he's got the Rem Driver upgrade. It's his active turn, so it's 2 dice on something like 11s, I think. And Richard Quinn is shooting back, I think it might have been long range. But I managed to hit him with the sniper. I think I even got a... no, I just got the 1 hit through. So good shooting there from the sniper. My opponent did pass both armor saves on Richard Quinn and fell into cover. This is another important moment. In some of the face-to-face rolls later in the game, you'll see that I also roll very, very well. Of course, I wouldn't have needed to if I just killed Richard Quinn at this point, but like many games of Infinity, it's going to be a back and forward of one player getting very lucky, then the other player getting very, very lucky, and so forth. But yeah, missed the opportunity to get rid of him, and he does duck back behind the wall, so he goes from this point on the wall just to behind here, total cover. So, this allows me to move back into position, reform the link team with Parvati, looking really beautiful here, and then moving around. So, this is the point where she ends the short skill move, but I want to note that she has moved all the way around to this spot where she can see the Feuerbach, and then she's come back to this particular position. So the Orc Feuerbach is wisely covering that angle with his gun. I have not moved on the lighter side of that mine, by the way, and the Orc decides to pistol me. Not a bad move, given that he'd be hitting on 14s here. Parvati would be spraying him down with all 5 dice from her SMGs. Does get some hits through. The Feuerbach, luckily, tanks all but 1 save, so he's wounded, but I promptly run out of orders here with Parvati. So you guys can sort of appreciate here that I did take a bit of a risk moving in. I did get a bit unlucky. I mean, that Bulleteer should have gone down earlier. Quinn should have died. I could quite easily have killed the Orc Feuerbach if I hadn't spent so many orders just flubbing it and not killing the Bulleteer. That happens. I'm not going to lose sleep or cry about that. But overall, it was a risky play. I mean, what could have happened is that I could have gotten even unluckier than I did right now, and he could have, another model standing there and more orders just to gut me at this point. So things are looking a bit up in the air right now. I do have orders left in my other group. The Naga Fort Observer is revealing and just grabbing the objective on my side here closest to me before we move out, so that is captured. The Dazyu, and this is questionable. I don't know if I really made the right play here. The Dazyu reveals from Group 1, same group as Bhavati, and grabs this objective. I'm doing this while I can, while I've got the +3 bonus, and putting models on the table for him to try and engage with. At the time I was thinking, well, even though my models are going to be a bit exposed here, my opponent will have to spend more time shooting them than grabbing the objectives, and if I can slow him down till turn 3, I might be able to overtake him there because I've got better willpower. He might run out of specialists, but looking back at it, I think I probably sprung this Dazyu a bit too early. My Posthuman attempts to attack his Bolt Sniper. This is a mistake. Not playing my best this game, I must admit. I've got to admit when I'm not doing well. I forgot just in the middle of doing this that he had a harass with his bolt. So my thinking was, well, I've got mimetism, I've got surprise attack, I've got active turn, 2 shots, and then he's like, oh, I've got 2 shots as well, and I'm like, what the hell? So that was just a dumb mistake from me, just forgetfulness, and unluckily, I didn't take the Bolt Sniper down. But luckily, I did survive with my Posthuman. So Posthuman, I think, passes an armor save and then guts back behind here. So that was interesting. Just with the remainder of Group 2, trying to push through with my my Naga to attack his Feuerbach, who is wounded. Feuerbach's up against, bad range, mimetism, cover, whereas I'm just blasting him with the combi rifle. So this is an opportunity to put down that Orc. He's only got 1 wound left, so I decided to just go for it. Unluckily, didn't take him down. He did tank the armor saves, so I tried, but my opponent this turn has just been a little bit evasive with the dice, but that's okay. The dice later on will make up for it. So the Orc Feuerbach, just, using guts to go prone back behind here. You can sort of see where the HMG is as well above him, but again, HMG is just staying prone until later. So the Naga does move down this little street here and just hides because she knows the Orc's going to be angry about this and coming after her later. So she's there to just sort of protect this back line a little bit. Cool, so over to my opponent's turn 2. He promptly reveals a Garud attack bot, finds the perfect spot to drop it and attempts to roll. And we both agreed that this was a risky play. He didn't have controlled jump. I do have a bot that can just dodge around. But he decided to go for it because this is in full view of my my lieutenant, and my lieutenant honestly has a line of fire to here, and he just managed to come in behind it. So my opponent, I think, playing really, really well this game. He did pass the roll. The flashbot fails to dodge, and we have this situation where the Garuda is staring straight at my lieutenant, who can't even shoot back. Hilariously, the Garuda has like 1 or 2 goes at this and actually completely fails to kill the lieutenant due to good dice on my part. So the Shukra rolling really, really well. The flashbot dodging towards him, not quite in close combat, couldn't get it in 1 move. But eventually, the Garuda does kill the lieutenant. So despite a little bit of luck initially on my part, it doesn't last, and the Garuda does take me down. So I'm going to spend the entire turn 2 in loss of lieutenant, sadly. But I'm not that worried about it because I've worked myself into a position where I'm just going to be defending and holding on for a little bit, and generally putting up roadblocks and stopping him from capturing too much material. If I did have the lieutenant alive turn 2, I can make a bit more of a long-term push, but I can definitely get by without needing all of those regular orders, in my opinion. So the flashbot has now dodged into close combat with the Garuda. That is it for both of those models for the rest of the game. Neither of them are going to attempt to do anything more, but the Garuda's done his job. He provides an order for the rest of the game, and he's killed my Shukra. The Orc Trooper now moving forward. He's managed to avoid some fire lanes here, so just pushing on out, giving me some free dodges, but generally getting to... Actually, no, he's got stealth because he's like the Varuna version. So then he comes around here. He's basically trying to look for these guys in the back here. These guys are getting some dodges. Parvati dodges so that she can get line of fire facing. Note that this is a 4-man link team, which is why I have 6th Sense, which is why I ignore the Varuna stealth, blah, 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 blah. But we do get to a point here. Hang on, where are we? So Richard Quinn is trying to take on my Dazu. And Richard Quinn, I must say, has a long string of very bad dice rolls for the remainder of this game. Richard Quinn is such a good piece to be dealing with the Dazu because he's got a good range band gun, he's got MSV, but somehow just barely failed to take down the Dazu, which is heartbreaking because he's got the one gun to do it. He's got shock. The Dazu has NWI and is not immune to shock. So the Dazu can just jump back here with her dodge. Note also that Dazu is very good at dodging, like physical 13 or something crazy. So she does stand a chance. It's just that Quinn was favored to here, and he unfortunately didn't step over the low bar. Bulleteer now moving through with the link team on the other side that involves the Harris of the Engineer and the Bolt. So just moving up into position and continuing around here to see if it can either hunt down the Dazu or get everybody else into a good position to score and do various things. So Engineer moving in and grabbing another objective. This puts NCA on 3 objectives. I've only got 2, so again pulling it ahead on the board. This is a quiet kind of play, but it's still very, very important. The Dazu is unfortunately hunted by the Bulleteer, but fortunately for her, does manage to dodge away. This is a bit of an easier dodge for her because she's on Phys 13, the Bulleteer is not ignoring cover, he's not ignoring her mimetism. Even if he did hit her, he doesn't have shock, so this one was a bit of an easier one to escape from. I should point out too that if you look at the board, the Naga that moved over here ran into the objective that my opponent had locked down using the mechanism from the scenario, whereas the Dazu had taken another one here that wasn't locked down. So I've got the objectives on my extreme left and extreme right, closest to my deployment zone. My opponent's got the two middle ones down the line and the one to his left. 3-2. Back over here, we have Richard Quinn taking on, here he is here, my sniper. And you'd think this would also be a reasonable one for Richard Quinn. He has Blister skill, he's got a decent gun, he's got some mimetism. I'm just whacking him back on a 13. But I'm sorry to say, for any Richard Quinn fans, that the luck on this post-human was just dazzling. It was just armor save after armor save after armor save. It was just shocking. So yeah, this is not to say that Richard Quinn is bad. I think my opponent played well enough that he got Richard into so many favorable scenarios and good situations in this game, which actually shows why he's a useful unit. It's just that the luck really was confounding over a period of time. So we have the Harris moving through. Many orders are spent and wasted trying to kill my troopers, and the Dazu and post-human just surviving every single time. Which unfortunately allows him to sort of drop back to a position 2 where he's actually in cover from everyone. He's got his bolt sniper up there, which again fails to kill him, which is kind of crazy. So he decides to focus attention elsewhere and move the Orc Feuerbach around here to take on the bolt, the Naga. My opponent has decided to prioritize the idea that if I lose my specialists, it's going to become exceptionally hard for me to grab objectives later. That's what this mission's all about. And he's kind of right, but I'm kind of feeling at this point I'm really only going to need the Dazu or Parvati to get the job done. As long as I don't take too much damage, and if I'm able to whittle him down a bit, the willpower on my side is high enough that even at -3, grabbing the objectives shouldn't be too hard. So, a look at my side of the table over here. Sniper's in a really good position. He's again trying to move Richard Quinn in here to take on my post-human, just doesn't get him. And right at the end of his turn 2, he moves Richard past the fire lane, loses cover, sets up a shop here. Again, he's got the active turn, and this sniper over here just plugs one into him and kills him. So this is a fate even worse than death. It's where you've spent all of the resources of your faction in a turn and then died. It's much better to die right from the outset, which is a sad thing to talk about, but it's Infinity after all. So again, it's not often that I have games where I get so lucky, but this game I certainly have been lucky. Even though my first turn rolling out was unfortunate up against this Bulleteer and against a couple of other things there, I kind of rolled poorly, but this is really helping to make up for it. So we now come to my turn 2, or is it my turn 3? My turn 2. The Dazu moves around and decides to take on the Orc Feuerbach. Note that I'm a lost lieutenant, so I get maybe one attempt at this, and I have to start spinning command tokens to flip over irregular orders. She is plugging shots into the Orc Feuerbach, who's trying to fire back with his Feuerbach. Fire back with the Feuerbach. And then Feuerbach, by the way, doesn't actually mean fire back in German. I think it means river of fire. But once she gets into within the 8 inches, the AP slugs and the shotgun just take him down, which is great. Unfortunately, she has to stay there for my opponent's final turn, because I just run out of orders at this point. Parvati moving through, and again, because I have limited resources, Parvati just going straight for that objective while she can. She rolls a 15, and that's a crit, because at this stage of the game, during round 2, there's no plus or minus modifier for capping the objectives. So this is good. It pulls things up here where I have 3 objectives points to my opponent's 3. I want to leave him on a final turn where he's lost some troopers. I've got some AROs up, and you know, hopefully restrict him to only getting maybe one more objective, and then I can really try hard to pull one of his back to win. So here we are here. My sniper has just jumped on top of the objective. He's not part of the link team really anymore. So everyone's just hanging out and waiting for opportunities to sort of ARO. As you can see behind my cam here, the Dazu's just sitting there way out in the open, trying to rely on her stats and her mimetism to survive. I asked a rules question on Discord while we were playing. I typed it into chat. Can your post-human be the new lieutenant? And me and my opponent weren't sure. I found out later on that not only can the post-human be a lieutenant, but the whole trooper is the lieutenant. So you can spend that lieutenant order on any of the proxies, which is crazy. Now, initially I thought, well, if the posthumans can be the lieutenant, I'll make it the rocket launcher, and I'll use my Apsara to move out and act as an ARO screen for this objective, which I don't want my opponent recapturing. But then I moved her back after feeling like, you know, what if the answer to that rules question is negative, and I have to make the Apsara the lieutenant, which is what I decided, which is why she actually stays prone back here rather than moving out with her irregular order from the lost lieutenant turn. My opponent's turn 3. It's do or die time. I have stood up with my Dakini HMG over here in like a 3-man link. And what's happening is that he's using his lieutenant's order to have a go at me, because there's nothing better to do with that lieutenant's order, and points for army kills don't matter at this stage. So the Fusilier bravely swings around and lets rip with his combi rifle and promptly gets mowed down by the HMG in short order. The Bolt Sniper over here trying to take on my post-human sniper, but again, the post-human sniper just having an absolute insane run of good luck and just shrugging off every face-to-face roll. I should point out, though, that my opponent also is not losing his Bolt Sniper either. Like, the Bolt's also, you know, passing saves and things, so nothing really happening. He is wounded, finally, but not killed. He does have NWI. Very important to point out. So now the Machinist and the Bulleteer moving through, and the Machinist is going to try and grab that objective at -3. So if you thought Pano Whip was bad, try doing it with a modifier. He needs a 9 to pass, but luckily does get it. So this puts him on 4 objectives after he eventually moves through and grabs it, but running out of orders here. So rolling on through, I really don't want him to take that last one, because it will swing one of mine back his way and put him on something like 5 objectives, and I'd only have 2. I'd have to swing one of his back my way for a draw, so it could get a bit nasty. Luckily, I have the Dakini HMG in the middle of the table and the post-human sniper watching this. So what he's got to do is he's got to move in with his Bolt Sniper here to clear me out, and it shouldn't be that hard. Bolt Sniper has to leave cover up against my HMG, but he's got the active turn, he's got MSV, he's got, you know, marksmanship. So my opponent definitely favored here, and I think it has to be said, my opponent just playing really solid. Like, he's making good decisions. He's not making really, you know, doofus mess up judgment calls. Apart from maybe the positioning of his link team in the middle of the table at the end of his first turn, I question that, but even that seemed kind of fine, the way his units were spread out. What happens in this situation, though, is that he's making a logical play and just getting punished by my dice rolls, because the HMG just crits him and just removes him, and that's the end of it. So, again, luck really saving me at this point in the game. There's the HMG just laughing hard in his little robotic Dakini bird chirping voice, and, well, I imagine that's how they sound, and the Bolt Sniper just dying. So he's having to move through with his Bulleteer now, and this is hard work. The Bulleteer is having to go after the Sniper and the HMG at various different points. And, you know, he can't move his engineer around, otherwise it'll just get shot. And just trying to really flare around and get hits. But sadly for my opponent, the OSS Dice God luck is just too good. Everybody passes saves and nothing really gets done. So he ends the turn with the Bulleteer hanging out here, just not managing to kill the HMG. No, I think he does finally get him, and then he runs out of orders. So there's the HMG just lying flat on the ground, but he did a great job. He slowed down the NCA advance, and NCA just runs out of orders here, and we can end the game with like 3 minutes before the LGS closes. So Dazu moves out, plugs a couple of slugs into that Bulleteer and kills it. What I can actually do here is use the direct template instead. I risk getting crit by the Bulleteer, which could kill me, but that didn't happen, and Bulleteer just dies here, which allows me to move through with my my Adazju to also shoot the Engineer, knock him flat on the ground as well, so he can't ARO me as I move past. Then the Dazju moves into the center of the table to pull back one of his objectives, and I even had several more orders to go and grab the other ones. So I ended up with, I think, 5 to his 2 or 3. So it was a major victory in the end. Well, I know at least I got 5 objective points. But just looking back through this game, I definitely got very lucky in the second half of this game. If my opponent had rolled pretty reasonable average dice, he should have so easily destroyed my post-human sniper and my HMG and, you know, probably the Dazju as well. That would have made it really hard for me to have come back later in the game. Having said that, if I just had some reasonably decent luck in the early game with my Dakini taking down his Bulleteer, my sniper taking down Richard Quinn, he wouldn't really have had those opportunities later anyway, so there is that. So Infinity games can kind of swing back and forward with luck there. Not going to lie though, I did think my opponent played very, very well, and I did think that I made several mistakes that weren't up to my normal standard of play. So that is something for me to take away and learn from. I also think my list could have been better as well. There's also the fact that my opponent completely forgot to deploy a Fusilier HMG on the table for the entire game. Yes, he did, you know, benefit from the order that was generated by it, so it was like a, you know, a free order. But, you know, had the Fusilier been there, he might have been able to move out, shoot something, be an arrow, join a link team, and add his weight to the game that way. Anyway, that has been a bat rep of Neural Net. I think it's a great mission. I hope you guys like it as well. Give me some feedback on how you go next week when everybody's playing it as part of the TTS League. If you guys like it, I will continue to run it in events because I think it's a really good, easy mission to understand, and it promotes a lot of good strategic, sound, tactical thinking. So let me know what you think, guys. See you soon.